what's going on, you guys? Nick here with Nick Strength and Power. I've got a couple of interesting stories for you guys today. The first story that I've got for you guys today, the latest from Samson Dauda. In his most recent YouTube video, Samson talks about his future competitive plans. And they seem very much in line with what his game plan was going into Prague, where he said, after the Olympia, he tried to come into conditioned, he tried to come into light, he over-dieted. Then the goal for Prague was to come in on stage at 300 pounds, a bigger, fuller look. And in his latest YouTube video, he says that's his focus going forward, is bringing a big mass monster look, pushing the weight, pushing the size. That's the game plan going forward. Now,
we didn't want to push past anymore, so we've intentionally sort of held me back from growing the last three sort of half off season we had. But coming off the stage this year is something that we've decided that, we're going to go back into that. We're going to go back and actually put my mass back on and actually push for the mass, push for more size on me, and really bring something freakish to the stage, man.
It's going to be interesting to see what happens with Samson with this approach. And honestly, I can see the rationale here, because obviously the game plan for this year was pushing the condition, pushing the diet, coming in lighter, it seems. And that strategy did not work out for him. So it looks like now he's doing the opposite. I just kind of wonder if that's too far in the opposite direction, and maybe somewhere in the middle is where he's best, like the 2024 package. I see a lot of people knocking him for saying this is going to be his approach. And again, I can see why he's going that direction. I mean, he had the, seems like, exact opposite approach for this Olympia and massively regressed in his Olympia placing this year. So the opposite strategy, and of course, hopefully combined with condition. We don't just want to see a mass monster, big full Samson. We want to see a conditioned Samson, which is why he did what he did this year, and it just didn't pan out for him the way that he thought it would. But it is when Samson is bigger and fuller that he really is at his best. It just needs to be conditioned. Like the Prague show was clearly a much improved version of Samson, and he looked back to how he usually looks dangerous in those side shots, like the side chest, the side tricep. When he's like bursting full in those shots is when he's the best. When he's flatter and he's downsized and he's over dieted, he doesn't have that same pop and that same effect in those shots. So I'm curious to see how this works out for him. But let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. It seems like, in my opinion, we're still kind of in this era where it seems like there is no clear dominant Olympia champion right now. Even though Derek just won the title again, I don't see Derek as a dominant, like, 5, 6, 7-time champion. I don't necessarily see Samson that way. I don't know if I see Hottie that way. We're really kind of just seeing the title bounce around between those three guys. In my opinion, none of them really seem to be crazy dominant once they have the title. I mean, when you look at last year, after Derek won the title, he slipped massively at the Olympia last year, back down to 3rd place. Samson won the Olympia last year, then this year slipped down to 4th. And to be honest with you guys, going over to Andrew Jacked, who just won this past weekend's Romania Pro, now I'm kind of starting to see the light a little bit with how many people wanted and thought Andrew Jacked should have won the Olympia this past year. I feel like I'm kind of ready to see somebody new out of those three guys win the show and maybe have a chance at somebody being a dominant Mr. Olympia that wins 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, a bunch of titles. Could Andrew be that guy once he gets to that place? Once he achieves the type of condition and fullness in the lower body that the judges want to see, which he did at the Olympia this year, he did at Romania, he repeated that look, and some say he even looked better in Romania. Could Andrew be the guy that once he figures out how to do it, how to get there, and does what he needs to do, if he's able to maintain that look once he figures it out, and if he does win the Olympia, could he be one of these guys that stays on top for a long time? Because he is so different than these other guys. In my opinion, he has a look that really nobody else has. I know a lot of people compare him to Samson, and really maybe from the standpoint of they're just bigger guys, taller guys. But Andrew, to me, has a look that nobody else really has. And now that he's finally starting to make the improvements that we've wanted to see from him and bring the condition and the detail that we've wanted to see from him while maintaining that fullness to the lower body, I think he can be a really dangerous Mr. Olympia if he wins it. You know, one of the reasons why I was starting to not think Andrew Jacked was going to get there is because for a big portion of his career, it seems like the last year or two, he wasn't really making any drastic jumps, any like massive noticeable improvement from show to show until the Olympia in Romania. And now we've seen arguably the best Andrew Jacked that we've ever seen back-to-back at the Olympia in Romania. He's proven he can replicate that look. Now I'm more of a believer in the potential of Andrew Jacked winning, not only winning the Olympia, but maybe once he gets there, once he reaches the top, maybe he can stay there if he has it figured out, even though he is older. It is worth pointing out that he's in his 40s. He's in his early 40s, but he got kind of a late start to bodybuilding. That is worth pointing out. But I think it's entirely possible that he could be a guy where once he gets there, maybe he's the first guy in a while that can stay there for 3, 4, 5 years. But only time will tell. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Now, next up in the news, this is a really fascinating story. So I've been seeing this circulating. This is about the Prague Pro. It's about Giles, it's about Martin, and it's about Samson. So I talked to Martin about this very briefly earlier, and I've been seeing this all over my YouTube feed, all over my Instagram feed. So if you don't know who Giles Tiger Thomas is, he's a bodybuilding commentator. He was doing the commentary for the live stream of that Prague show. He's been around for a long time. He's worked for the magazines. He's worked for MD. He's done all kinds of stuff over like the last 20 years in bodybuilding. He's been around for a while. So this video that's circulating is being filmed by Giles at the pose down portion of the Prague show. And so Martin comes up to the camera. He yells at Giles and says, if you're going to talk shit about me, say it to my face. Then he goes and says something to Samson, and Samson seems to kind of co-sign what Martin had said. So I'm going to roll that clip for you guys right here.
Hey, next time you want to talk shit about me, do it to my face. Naively, I was honestly hoping for an apology, because to me that is not cool. And that's why I sent it. The only reason I sent it to different people in the industry, like judges, officials, people I knew that I could trust to not say anything or leak it, is because I wanted their advice. And I said, guys, what does this mean? What does this mean now that I'm doing commentary, I'm giving my take, I'm giving my opinion. What does this mean now if we say something an athlete doesn't like? Does this mean now it's a free for all? Because like Samson and Martin both kind of coming at me. It was kind of intimidating. And another thing is, it sparked up my heart arrhythmia as well. Like I've got to pay £200 now for an appointment with a bloody cardiologist.
Now I wanted to talk about this because I think this is an important conversation to have about bodybuilding commentary, bodybuilder reactions. And first I want to say I really like both Giles and Martin. I've had really good conversations with Martin. Every time that I've interacted with Giles, he's been a really nice guy. So I like both of them. And I really hope that they potentially resolve this offline, away from the public eye. But I was watching Ron Harris's channel where he interviewed Giles, and they talked about this situation earlier today. And Giles basically says he sent this to a couple people offline in private, asked them not to share. Somebody leaked it, so that's how this video came out. And Giles said he didn't want to address it publicly. He wanted to address it privately with Martin. And hopefully that's what happens. Hopefully they resolve this just between the two of them and keep it offline. But the clip is out there, and now everybody is talking about it. And essentially what it comes down to, from what Giles said on this podcast with Ron, and from what Martin said to me when I asked him, I basically just messaged him and said, fill me in. What's the deal with you and Giles? What were you upset about? They both kind of said the same thing. So in the podcast, Giles said, he thinks the reason is when Martin beat Chris Bumstead at last year's Prague, that Martin was unhappy with Giles saying that he shouldn't have beaten Chris, essentially. That's what Giles thought it was that commentary is what upset Martin. Now, when I talked to Martin, Martin said he was talking shit about Samson in the whole live stream, He was talking about Samson. He was talking shit about Samson and I the whole live stream, and he did the same thing to me last year. He's just a little troll. I didn't think it was going to blow up like this. I had 2 days as the good guy. Now I'm back to being the villain. So yeah, essentially Martin is upset about Giles' commentary. So I have two different perspectives on this. The first perspective is obviously going to be from Giles' point of view, because I'm also a bodybuilding commentator. I've also, had my fair share of interactions with pissed off bodybuilders. And the situation with Giles is a little bit more, it makes it a little bit more unprofessional on Martin's behalf because of the fact that not only, Giles wasn't just a random commentator in the crowd. Giles was part of the show. He was doing commentary at the booth for the show that Martin was competing in. So he was an employee of the show that Martin publicly, Martin yelled at him in the crowd as a competitor to somebody working at the show. That I think is wrong. And I want to say this again. I want to emphasize that I do really like Martin. So for me to say that I think he's wrong here, that's the truth. Martin seems like a really nice guy every time I've talked to him. He's even sent me some of the nose strips that he wears. I like Martin a lot, but I do think in this situation, this particular instance, he was wrong. And I do think him and Giles should work it out backstage. But I want to say, I don't think that Martin was wrong to be upset. I think he was wrong in his approach to how he addressed it. And I think as bodybuilding commentators or bodybuilding media, whatever you want to call us, I think sometimes we lean too heavily on this idea that, well, this is our job to commentate on bodybuilding, so they should just deal with it and accept whatever we say. They should just get over it. This is the name of the game. This comes with being a pro bodybuilder. Whatever we say, they just have to deal with it. I feel like we as commentators lean too heavily on that and don't think about sometimes the fact that these are human beings that we're talking about. Yes, it kind of is the name of the game. They are pro bodybuilders. The entire sport is based on opinions. It's entirely subjective. So they're going to hear a ton of opinions about their physiques. However, I think we lean too heavily on this idea that, well, they just have to get over it. I don't think a bodybuilder is wrong to be upset when you say something that they don't like or you say something that hurts their feelings, even if it's just a criticism of their physique that is totally valid. I think we lean too heavily on this idea of, well, get over it. It comes with the job. I think they are also just as entitled to be upset as we are entitled to say what we think. In a perfect example of this, I had a bodybuilder recently send me a text and say, hey, I didn't like the things that you said about me recently, and we talked about it privately. And I think that's totally valid. So I think it's about how you handle it. But I also don't think we can just say, what are you upset for, bro? It comes with the territory. These people are human beings, and I think it's worth pointing out that, as a commentator, we're not immune from being wrong. We're not immune from being dicks. We're not immune, from coming off too harsh. So in the defense of Martin and really any bodybuilder watching this, I don't think that it's necessarily fair to say you shouldn't be upset about this. It just comes to the territory. I think it is fair to say you handled this the wrong way. We can talk about it off camera. If you have my number, shoot me a text. I DM with most of you guys on Instagram. You can shoot me a DM and we can talk about it privately. And most of the time, we talk about it and it works out fine. And there's a mutual understanding. I'm not mad at a bodybuilder for being upset with something that I said if it's just a critique of their physique that hurt their feelings, and they reach out to me privately and say, bro, I just want to let you know I didn't like the way that you said this, or I didn't like this, whatever. So I do think Martin was wrong for, at a show that he's competing at, to have kind of a public outburst against an employee that was working that show, doing the commentary for that show. He does commentary on his own, online and offline. I fully agree with Giles that it was unprofessional. And I do think they should probably just have a conversation in private, and I'm sure they'll be cool after that. It's really not a big deal. Because again, after talking to Martin and listening to what Giles had to say, I really didn't hear, and I watched the show live. I didn't hear anything in the commentary that seemed like outright disrespectful or personal. He did criticize, the physiques of both Samson and Martin, but I didn't think it was anything like outright disrespectful. It was just his opinion, and I think Giles was totally valid in the things that he said. But I also want to just emphasize, I think that a bodybuilder is valid in getting upset. I think it's just about the way that they handle it. And I think it just becomes a very easy cop-out Because I've been here before. Like I said, I've had this situation with multiple bodybuilders. Phil Heath was one of them, and me and Phil, we're cool now. But it's easy to say, and this is kind of how I felt like when I started my channel, it's easy to just say, get over it. I can say whatever I want. This is part of the territory. And it takes a more mature, kind of nuanced approach to say, okay, maybe I could have worded this better. Okay, maybe I was wrong here. Okay, maybe they're valid in being upset about this or that, and maybe I could have done this or said this in a better way, in a different way. I could have been more respectful in the way that in my delivery. So again, kind of in defense of the bodybuilders, I don't think that bodybuilding commentators just have outright immunity to say whatever they want and that we're never wrong. And I don't think that we should have this attitude, because I see this a lot in the comments too. I see this like, you're a bodybuilder, get over it. This comes with the territory. And to an extent, that is true. Whether they like it or not, whether the bodybuilders like it or not, there will always be, however many commentators are out there, there will always be all these opinions on their physique being published, being posted, being voiced, positive and negative. And to an extent, it's true. They are just going to have to get over it eventually. But I don't think we can say you have to like it. You can't have your feelings hurt. You can't be upset about this. And I don't think we should say, and Giles never said this, by the way, I'm just delivering this point. Giles even said, I wish that Martin would text me. I wish that he would message me. I wish that we would have talked backstage, whatever. I think that should be the approach. If you don't like something that we say, if you don't like the way we deliver something, or if we're wrong about something, hit us up. It doesn't have to be like this public anger outburst thing. And so I think it's really important to see both sides of this angle. As a commentator, I think we should have a certain degree of protection to be able to say the things that we say, to be able to have opinions, to be able to offer critiques and criticism without fear of, public outburst or this kind of backlash or whatever. I think as a commentator, I have to also defend that. That's true. But I can see it from the bodybuilder's perspective too, where their feelings can be hurt and they can be valid in that, and they can want to talk it out. I think that's totally valid. And I know I'm kind of starting to get long-winded here, but I guess my point essentially is, even though I think Martin is wrong here, I think bodybuilding fans should have a little bit more empathy towards the bodybuilders. I'm sure, and I've already seen it too, right? Like, a lot of people are already shitting on Martin. He's the villain. He's the bad guy now. And yes, I think he was wrong here. And I think that he probably should apologize to Giles in private. But I kind of wish bodybuilding fans were a little bit more empathetic when they think about situations like this, and they think about these bodybuilders. They're people too. They're kind of just the bros. I mean, I'm 32. A lot of these guys are around that age, around my same age or younger, and I can kind of empathize with the fact that, yes, it is their job to have their physique judged. It is their job to have people talk about their physiques and give their opinions. That's what's going to come with it. And to an extent, yes, they do just kind of have to get over it. But I think you kind of have to put yourself in their shoes a little bit. When you criticize them, when you give the commentary, you got to think about the fact it is kind of a personal thing. Even though it's their job, even though it comes with the territory, they're young guys like most of us, the same age, they're gym rats. And we're saying, even though it's fair criticism, we're saying negative things about their bodies. It's like a personal thing. And even though I think it's a commentator's right to be able to do that and offer any opinion they want, I think we should also be sympathetic to the fact that, of course, people are going to be upset with this. It's just about how they handle it. So a lot of people are asking me my perspective on this, and that's my perspective. I think the way Martin handled it was wrong. I don't think he's wrong to be upset, and I think he probably should just talk to Giles, off camera. And to be honest, I don't even really know the full extent of what was said about Samson. I don't really remember too much negativity about Samson on the live stream, but let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. What do you think about how Martin handled this? What do you think about, I really don't think Giles said anything crazy out of line, at least not that I heard and not that Martin told me, because that's another thing too, is like, I don't want to rant about this too long. I know I'm ranting, but another thing too is like, I think any critique of a physique is usually valid. You could probably deliver it in a nice way or whatever. You don't really have to, whatever. Any critique about the physique is valid. But I guess let me know in the comments, where do you think it crosses the line? Because like I said, a commentator is not infallible. It doesn't mean we can't be wrong. It doesn't mean we can't go too far. It doesn't mean we can't be assholes. So where do you think the line becomes crossed to where, is there a situation where it's valid for a bodybuilder to crash out on a commentator? Is there something that's off limits? Is there something that's going too far? And where do you think that line is? And like I said, I know I've been ranting about this a little bit too long, but I have these two, I think, pretty unique perspectives on it, being a commentator myself. And then, like I said, having just talked to Martin, and he's already saying, like, now I'm perceived as the villain. I do see two sides of this. Even though I think Martin is wrong, I think we do use this mentality too much of they just have to deal with whatever we say and get over it, and kind of discount the fact that, they're human beings. They're guys that are around our same age, and they're going to be upset. They're going to be emotional. And I guess the solution is they just need to learn a good way to handle it. And like I said, I think a good way is like what usually happens with me is I talk to a lot of these guys, and if they don't like something that I say, like the recent example that I gave, they can text me and they can say, hey, I didn't like this, and we talk about it, and it's all good. And I think about that, with this Martin situation, I've said mostly positive things about Martin throughout his career so far. And, like I said, every conversation I've had with Martin has been really nice and cordial, and we seem like we get along really well. But I'm sure the day is going to come that I say something negative. Maybe he misses the mark at a show or something, or he's off. And I'm sure the day is going to come that I probably do say something that is a critique of his physique that is not just, not glazing him. And when I look at this situation with Giles, it does make me think, well, if I do have a valid negative criticism of his physique one day, then does Martin turn on me, even though we've been cool up until this point? Does it become, oh, well, you're talking shit about me? So I do think to an extent, Martin is going to have to learn how to handle these situations, because as a pro bodybuilder, whether you like them or not, this situation is going to keep happening. There's going to be people that criticize you through the course of your career, especially Martin, being as young as he is in his career. I think Martin has a very bright future and a lot of years to go. He's going to be around, I think, for a long time. And he's going to be at the top, I think, for a long time. So he's going to be getting feedback like this for years to come. And he's going to have to learn how to deal with it. But I'm going to stop ranting about it there, and I want to talk about for the next story. I already made a short video about this yesterday that already got, 120,000 views or something in the first however many hours. Hosema at the Romania Pro. He won the Classic Physique division, and again, even though I already made a short about this, I wanted to put it in a main channel post because I am that impressed with the level of condition that he brought to this show. And I really do agree with a lot of the comments that I'm seeing from other Classic Physique pros about Hosema, that this is arguably the best condition that we're seeing from anybody in Classic Physique. And I'm even seeing other bodybuilders from other divisions say, this is the best condition maybe in the entire IFBB right now. Like, we're not even seeing this in open. Absolutely peeled to the bone. He was top 4 at the Olympia this past year, and I think a lot of people were even arguing that he should have been higher than 4th. And I really don't necessarily even disagree with that, but I think it should be highlighted that when we talk about wanting to see detail and we want to see somebody with crazy, crisp, grainy condition, this is the prime example of that. This is the look that I think of when I say, I want an open Mr. Olympia to have condition like this, to have hamstrings like this, to have glutes like this, to have detail in the back, striations in the pecs, that grainy look. This is the best example of that, honestly. He's a freak. Could you imagine this type of condition on a physique like Andrew Jacked? Could you imagine Andrew Jacked with glutes and hamstrings like this? Could you imagine Andrew Jacked with that type of detail in the back, with that type of detail in the legs? If Andrew Jacked had Hosema's condition, I think he would be absolutely unstoppable. If he maintained the fullness in the legs with condition like this, who could stop Andrew Jacked if he looked like this on stage? So I just wanted to give kind of that extra shout out to Hosema. Again, even though I already made a short about this, this is really impressive, next level condition. And I think right now he probably is the most conditioned guy in Classic Physique. When you think about the look that Ramon brought, Terrence, Mike, Josema was in fourth. Out of those 4 guys, I think this is way beyond what they brought to the Olympia. And this was better than even the look that Josema brought to the Olympia. But let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. That's going to wrap it up for today's video, guys. I hope you did, in fact, enjoy it. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, click that bell notification icon if you have not already. And as always, I love you guys, appreciate you guys. Nick Strength and Power signing out. All right, guys, don't forget to click that like button and subscribe to this channel if you enjoy the content. Also, check out my Instagram at Nick Strength Power. My Facebook page, which is simply Nick Strength and Power. My secondary YouTube channel, Nick Strength and Vlogs, for vlogs and bonus content that you will not see on this channel. And consider subscribing to my third YouTube channel, Nick Strength and Pokemon, which is all things Pokemon and trading card games, completely unrelated to this channel. So if you're into that, give that one a look. And all links to merchandise and social media will be in the description box below. If you guys want a Nick Strength and Power t-shirt, that will be in the Shopify link below. Have a great day.